On a sunny autumn day, when the university campus was bathed in golden light, Alex and Alice sat next to each other in the first ever couple. They studied in the same group for several months, and during this time they managed to become friends. Alice, always stylish and confident, was the soul of the company, and Alex, modest and a little shy, attracted attention with his intelligence and sincerity. Alice belonged to a wealthy family, but she never tried to flaunt it. Her simplicity and kindness surprised many. Alex, in turn, grew up in a small town, and his life was full of challenges. He worked in the evenings to help his family and always found time to study. At first, their communication was ordinary. They worked together on projects, discussed lectures, and joked about teachers. Alice always supported Alex when he was worried about his grades, and in return, he helped her understand difficult topics. Their conversations were easy and natural, and both felt like they had found a true friend. One day, after another lecture, they decided to go to a cafe together. Alice ordered tea with lemon, and Alex ordered his favorite coffee. They talked about everything: childhood, plans for the future, and dreams. Alex admitted that he wants to become an architect and create buildings that will beautify cities. Alice shared her desire to open her own art gallery. "You're always so confident," Alex said, looking at her. "How do you manage it?" "It's just an appearance," Alice smiled. "Actually, I often doubt myself, but when I'm with you, I feel like anything is possible." These words surprised Alex. He never thought that Alice, so bright and popular, could feel insecure. This moment brought them even closer. Every day, their friendship grew deeper. They spent time together in pairs, prepared for exams, and even went for evening walks in the city. Alice showed Alex the places she had loved since childhood, and he opened his world to her: small coffee shops, quiet parks, and even the roof of the university library from where the whole city could be seen. However, over time, Alex began to notice that his feelings for Alice were changing. He loved hearing her laugh, watching her enthusiastically talk about her ideas, and just being around. But he was afraid that the confession might destroy their friendship. One day, after a hard day, they were sitting on the same roof of the library. The sky was covered with stars, and the city twinkled with lights. "Alice," Alex said, pulling himself together, "I have something to tell you." She looked at him, slightly surprised by the seriousness of his tone. "We have been friends for a while now, and it was the best thing that happened to me at the university. But I feel like I want more. I think I'm in love with you." Alice was silent for a few seconds and then smiled. "Alex," she said quietly, "I felt the same way for a long time, but I was afraid that it would destroy our friendship." In that moment, all their doubts disappeared. Their friendship grew into something more sincere and true love. They knew that there would be difficulties ahead, but they were ready to overcome them together. After that evening on the roof, everything changed. Their feelings were no longer hidden behind friendly talk or hints. Alex and Alice became inseparable, not only as friends, but also as a couple. They got into the habit of meeting in the morning before couples to drink coffee together. And in the evening, they often walked the campus alleys, discussing their dreams. Although their love was sincere and mutual, the world around began to pay attention. A university campus, like any other small social environment, quickly became filled with gossip. Students whispered about how a rich girl meets a boy from a poor family. Some of Alice's friends even tried to dissuade her from this relationship. "You do understand that he is not from your circle," her friend Laura once said when they were drinking tea in the student cafeteria. "I have nothing against him, but he will not be able to give you what you're used to." Alice calmly looked at her friend and answered, "Laura, I'm not looking for what I'm used to. I'm looking for someone who makes me happy. And Alex of the university is just such a person." Alex also faced similar difficulties. His friends from the department sometimes joked about him. "What, Alex, will you soon become part of the elite? Maybe her father will invite you to a family reception?" Alex just smiled back, but inside he was worried. He knew that Alice came from a rich family, and he was afraid that he would not be able to be for her what she deserved. Nevertheless, their relationship only grew stronger. Alex started working harder to save money and at least partially cover the common expenses. Alice, seeing this, only appreciated his efforts more. She was trying to show him that what was important to her was not how much he earned, but who he was as a person. One day, they decided to have a small picnic in a park near the university building. Alex made the sandwiches himself, and Alice brought her favorite wine, which they drank from plastic cups. They lay on a blanket under an old oak and looked at the sky. "You know," Alex said, holding her hand, "sometimes I think you deserve more than I can give you." Alice leaned closer and looked him straight in the eyes. "Don't say that. You already give me the most important love, support, and faith in myself. It is more than any material things." These words encouraged Alex, and he promised himself to do everything to live up to her faith. He began to work on his projects even more diligently, and in the evenings they studied together the architectural books that Alice bought for him. Christmas soon came. Alice invited Alex to her home to introduce the family. It wasn't an easy decision, as she knew her parents might be skeptical of their relationship. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked as they stood in front of the huge oak doors of her house. "If you're around, I'm ready for anything," Alex replied, squeezing her hand. The evening turned out to be difficult, but at the same time important. Alice's parents were reticent at first, but after seeing how Alex treated their daughter, they began to change their minds. He answered their questions with dignity and confidence, and his sincerity impressed them. After dinner, when Alex was helping Alice in the kitchen, she smiled and said, "You were wonderful. I know it wasn't easy, but you did it." Alex smiled back. "I would do it 100 more times just to be with you." Their love grew stronger after this ordeal. They realized that together they can overcome any obstacles. From now on, they had a future that they were building together, step by step. The next morning, when Alice's house was still quiet and only the sunlight filtered through the heavy curtains, her father knocked on the door of her room. "Alice, come down to the office. We need to talk," he said in his usual stern voice. Alice, still a little sleepy, quickly gathered herself and went downstairs. In the study, her father was sitting at a large wooden table, and a cup of already cold coffee was standing next to him. He gestured for her to sit down. "Alice, I want to be straight," he began, leaning his elbows on the table. "Last night was interesting. Alex is clearly a smart guy and he goes out of his way to impress. But I'm a father and my job is to protect you." Alice clenched her fists in her lap, feeling the tension build. "Father, if you want to say that he is not good enough for me, then you have no right to decide who I should love," she said firmly. "Listen to me." The father's voice became sharper. "This is not a question of love. This is a matter of reality. You grew up in abundance and your future should be stable. Alex, he won't be able to provide you with this kind of life. He has nothing, and I won't let you ruin your future for him." Alice felt her eyes fill with tears, but she didn't want to show weakness. "He works. He is talented. He will be successful," she said, trying to control her emotions. "And you don't even want to give him a chance." Father shook his head. "Alice, I can see further than you. You are young and do not understand that love is just a part of life. He may be sincere, but that won't change the gulf between you. I insist that you end this relationship." "Do you insist?" She stood up, looking at him with anger in her eyes. "You think you can control my life? That your money means more than my feelings?" Father stood up too, trying to keep his composure. "I just want you to make the right choice. Think about it, Alice. If you continue this relationship, you will lose not only your future, but also our support." These words struck her like a thunderbolt in the middle of a clear sky. She couldn't believe that her father would go so far as to separate her from Alex. Alice silently left the office. Thoughts raced through her head. She knew that her decision would change everything. Either she would listen to her father and leave Alex, or she would stand up for her right to be happy. Returning to her room, she picked up the phone and called Alex. "I need to talk to you." "It's important," she said, trying to hold back her excitement. "What happened?" "You look upset," he asked when they met in a small park near the university. Alice told him everything, word for word. Alex was silent for a long time, staring at the ground. "If your father doesn't think I'm good enough for you, maybe he's right," he finally said, barely audible. "Don't say that," cried Alice. "I love you, Alex, and I know you can achieve anything you want, but I can't do it alone. I need you." He looked at her and saw determination in her eyes. "Then we'll have to fight," Alex said, taking her hand. "I will not give you up, Alice. But are you sure you are ready to go against your father? Alice nodded. I'm ready. You are my real family, and I won't let anyone decide what to do with my life. Their path only became more difficult, but they knew that love was worth any sacrifices. From now on, they decided to fight for their happiness, regardless of obstacles. The next few days after the conversation with her father were difficult for Alice. She felt tense every time she was at home. Her father seemed calm, but she knew this was only a temporary respite before a new wave of his determination to separate them from Alex. One morning, when she was about to go for a match, her father unexpectedly called her into his office. Alice felt that something was wrong, and as she entered the study, she felt her heart stop. Alice, sit down, said her father, pointing to a chair in front of his desk. His voice was serious and cold. She sat down, trying to look calm. I decided that you will spend the next semester in Europe. You have a great opportunity to study at a prestigious university in Paris. This is your chance to gain international experience and open new perspectives for yourself. Alice stared at him dumbfounded. Paris, father? I can't just leave the university, my friends and... She stopped because she knew that it was Alex who mattered most. You can. And you will go, said the father sternly. I have already organized everything. Your journey will start in a week. This decision is made, and it is not discussed. It's because of Alex, isn't it? Alice finally said the obvious. You want to separate us, but it won't work. You can't control my life. I'm doing it for your own good, replied his father, leaning closer. You are still young and do not understand the consequences of this relationship. Paris will give you a chance to start from scratch. There you will meet people who will be at your level, with whom you can build a future. Alice stood up, indignant and upset. My future is my decision, and Alex is part of that future whether you like it or not, she exclaimed and ran out of the office without waiting for an answer. The following days became a real test for Alice. She knew that her father would not change his decision. Her mother tried to comfort her, but Alice could see that even she could do nothing. Time was running out, and Alice had to decide what to do. In the evening, she met Alex in their favorite park. She told him about her father's decision. Paris, Alex repeated, his voice muffled. It's far. What are you going to do? I don't know, Alex, Alice said, feeling tears well up in her eyes. I don't want to go. But if I stay, my father will do everything to destroy our relationship. He may even deprive me of financial support. Alex was silent for a few seconds and then took her hands. Alice, I don't want you to sacrifice your opportunities because of me. Paris is a big chance, but I don't want to lose you. Alice looked at him, and there was so much pain in her eyes that Alex felt his heart sink. We'll find a way to be together, he said quietly, regardless of the distance. The next week, Alice was preparing to leave. It hurt her to leave Alex, but they agreed to keep in touch in any way possible. Write letters, call, even meet if possible. They knew that trials awaited them, but they believed that true love would endure anything. On the day of departure, Alex came to the airport to say goodbye. He gave her a small pendant in the shape of a heart. This is for you, he said, putting it around her neck, so that you remember, no matter where you are, I'm always next to you. Alice hugged him, tears streaming down her face. I'll be back, Alex. I promise. They stood together until the boarding announcement forced them to separate. Alice climbed aboard the plane while Alex remained standing by the window, watching the plane take off into the sky. She left for Paris, and their love now had to pass the test of distance, time, and persistence. But neither Alice nor Alex were going to give up. Their story was just beginning. Paris greeted Alice with charming streets, the aroma of fresh croissants, and the twinkling lights of the Eiffel Tower. However, all these landscapes did not bring her joy. Her heart stayed at home, next to Alex. She hoped that at least university life would provide a distraction, but she soon learned that her father had something more planned for her. Alice was settled in a luxurious estate in the suburbs of Paris. It was the house of Gerard Lacroix, an old friend of her father's and a successful businessman. Gerard and his wife, Madeleine, proved to be hospitable hosts, but Alice quickly realized that her real reason for being here had nothing to do with comfort or safety. Their son, Antoine, was the epitome of the perfect partner for her, as seen through her father's eyes. Tall, Charismatic and educated, Antoine worked in the family business and, judging by everything, was ready for a serious relationship. Alice, on the other hand, felt from the first day that her father played a whole show to make them get closer. During the first dinner, Gerard said with a smile, "We are very glad that you stayed with us, Alice. Antoine was also delighted when he found out that you were coming. You have a lot in common." Antoine, sitting across from Alice, smiled and raised his glass. "It's great that you're here. Paris will open new horizons for you," he said, giving her an appraising look. Alice smiled politely, but felt awkward. She had nothing against Antoine, but she saw that he had become part of her father's plan. He seemed sincere, but Alice was sure he too had been coerced into playing the part. In the following days, Antoine did everything to attract her attention. He took her to expensive restaurants, organized tours of Paris, and even gave her an expensive bracelet. Madeleine hinted at how good they looked together, and Gerard kept repeating that their families should be closer. Alice began to feel trapped. She wanted to write to Alex about what was happening, but she was afraid that it would only break his heart. She decided to keep her feelings a secret and find a way to resist these manipulations. One day, Antoine invited her to dinner at a restaurant on the banks of the Seine. The evening was planned perfectly. Live music, a view of the river, and a luxurious table with flowers. During dinner, Antoine unexpectedly took her hand. "Alice," he began, "I understand you were forced to come here. And maybe you think I'm just playing the role our parents want to see. But I sincerely want to know you better. We could be a good couple." Alice removed her hand and looked him straight in the eye. "Antoine, you're a good guy, and I appreciate your honesty. But my heart already belongs to another person, and I can't pretend it isn't." Antoine was a little surprised, but did not look offended. "I see," he said after a pause. "But you should know, your father is very serious. He wants you to leave the past behind. It will not be easy for you to resist him." Alice nodded. She knew that the struggle was just beginning, but she also knew that she would not let anyone decide for her who to be with and how to build her life. After returning home, she began to prepare a plan to get out of this situation. She decided to write to Alex and tell him everything. Their love was worth fighting for, even if it meant going against her father's wishes. Days turned into weeks, and the tension around Alice only grew. She tried to avoid the topic of marriage, but her father and Gerard left her no choice. One evening, when she returned home after classes at the university, she was met by a serious-looking Madeleine. "Alice, your father is waiting in the living room. We need to discuss something important," she said, her tone leaving little room for doubt. Alice took a deep breath and went into the living room. Her father, Gerard, and Antoine were already waiting for her there. Father looked extremely focused, and his words sounded like a gunshot. "Gerard and I have come to an agreement. You and Antoine are getting married next month." Alice froze as if struck by lightning. It seemed to her that she had not heard correctly. "What? Get married?" Her voice trembled with indignation. "Father, you can't make me do this." "This is the best decision for you, for our family, and for the future," he replied coldly. "Antoine is an ideal partner. He will be able to provide you with a stable and happy life. This is resolved." "And my feelings?" she exclaimed, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. "It doesn't matter to you?" Father sighed, trying to stay calm. "Your feelings are a whim. You are young and do not understand what will be better for you. We have already decided everything. You will agree to this marriage." Alice looked around the room. Gerard looked pleased. Antoine tried to remain neutral, and her father adamant. "I won't be forced," she said firmly. "I will not marry Antoine. I love another person." The words hung in the air, and everyone in the room seemed to hold their breath. Her father stood up, his face filled with anger. "You will marry Antoine if you want to remain a part of this family." His voice sounded like a sentence. "If you don't do this, I will deprive you of everything. Money, support, your place in this world." Alice felt as if she had been cornered, but she knew she couldn't give up. She stood up, trying to gather all her confidence. "If this is the price for remaining a part of this family, then I refuse. My life is my decision, and I will not let you control me." She turned and left the room, leaving everyone in deep silence. In her room, Alice quickly picked up her phone and texted Alex. "Alex, I need your help. My father wants to force me to marry someone else. I don't know what to do." The answer came almost instantly. "Alice, I will come. We will find a way to stop it. I will not let them separate us. She felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. Alex was her support, and she knew that together they could overcome any obstacle. The next day, Alice began to plan how to get out of this situation. She knew her father wouldn't back down, but she wasn't going to let him dictate her future. Her love for Alex was stronger than all her fears, and she was willing to fight for him, even if it meant going against her family. A few days later, Alex received an unexpected call from Alice's father's assistant. He was invited to a meeting in a luxury hotel in the city center. Alex couldn't figure out why, but he agreed, hoping it would somehow relate to Alice. He was worried, but he showed up on time. Alice's father was already waiting for him in the spacious conference hall. He sat at a large table with the air of a man accustomed to the fact that his word is always law. "Sit down, Alex," he said calmly, pointing to the chair across from him. Alex sat down nervously, trying to stay calm. "You must understand why I wanted to talk to you," Alice's father began, crossing his arms on the table. "My daughter fell in love with you, and that's a problem." Alex felt his heart beat faster, but he remained silent. "I know that you are a boy with ambitions, and I know about your situation, about your mother and her illness," he added, looking closely at Alex. These words caught Alex by surprise. His mother had been bedridden for several months due to a serious illness, and he was using all his strength to find money for her treatment. "I want to help you," Alice's father continued, pulling a folder out of his briefcase. He opened it, and Alex saw a check with a huge amount that could cover all the medical expenses. "It's yours if you make the right choice," said his father, his voice commanding. "I want you out of my daughter's life. She deserves better. You're a smart guy, Alex. You know I'm right." Alex felt his chest tighten. It was the most painful decision in his life. He knew that this money could have saved his mother's life, but at the same time he understood that it would mean betraying Alice and their love. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, trying to hide his anger. "Doesn't your daughter's happiness mean anything to you?" "Happiness is stability," replied Alice's father. "You won't be able to provide her with what she needs. I'm doing it for her sake." Alex looked down at the check. He didn't want to accept it, but the thought of his mother depending on him left him no choice. "If I accept this money," he said with a heavy sigh, "will you guarantee that Alice will be happy?" "I promise that I will do everything possible for this," answered the father coldly. Alex took the check and signed the agreement that was lying on the table. It was his silent departure. The next day, Alex called Alice while walking in the park, where they spent a lot of time together. "Alice, I can't be with you anymore," he said, trying to look cool even though his heart was burning with pain. "What? Why?" Her voice trembled. "It's not working," Alex lied. "We are from different worlds. I can't give you what you deserve. Your father is right." "You talked to him, didn't you? What did he tell you?" She felt that something was wrong. Alex shook his head, looking away. "It's my decision, Alice. Goodbye." He turned off the phone, leaving her confused and devastated. Alex spent the money he received on his mother's treatment, and she gradually began to recover. But his heart remained with Alice. He knew he had lost her because of the compromise, but he believed he had done it for her own good. Alice could not understand why the person she loved suddenly left her, but she was sure that this was not the end of their story. Several years have passed. Alex worked hard to change his life. After graduating from the university, he got a job in a prestigious architectural company, where he quickly established himself as a talented and ambitious professional. He worked day and night, not allowing himself to rest. There was always an emptiness in his heart. Memories of Alice haunted him. Meanwhile, Alice lived a completely different life. She became the wife of Antoine, but her marriage did not bring her happiness. Antoine was kind and caring, but Alice could not love him. She constantly remembered Alex and the days when they were together. Her eyes were always sad, and her smile was rare and forced. She continued to live as her parents wanted, but the pain of lost love burned in her heart. One day, Alex decided that he could no longer live with the burden of having once accepted Alice's father's money. He decided to give this money back. Having collected the necessary amount, he contacted Alice's father's assistant and arranged a meeting. When Alex walked into the office where Alice's father was waiting for him, he looked confident and dignified. He was no longer the boy who had once been scornfully called unworthy. He was successful, smartly dressed, and full of determination. "Do you remember me?" Alex asked, sitting across from him. "I remember," replied Alice's father, looking intently at him. "Why did you come to return the money?" "Exactly," Alex said, placing the check on the table. "This money helped me in the most difficult time, but now I want to give them back to finish this chapter." Alice's father took the check and looked at it for a long time. Then he sighed and said, "You took a big step forward, Alex, but why do you need it now? You could forget about everything and live your life." Alex looked up and his voice was firm. "Because I still love your daughter, and I want you to know that I am no longer the boy you once thought unworthy. I'm ready to fight for Alice if she wants it too," Alice's father thought. He saw in front of him not a boy from a poor family, but a man who was able to achieve success through his own hard work. He was respected in professional circles and had enough strength to overcome any obstacle. "Alice married Antoine," he said at last. "But I see that she is unhappy. If you really want to be with her, you have to prove that you can make her happy." Alex nodded. "I will do it, and I will not give up." Alice, meanwhile, lived in her mansion with Antoine. Her life was empty and joyless. She often sat by the window, looking out over Paris, and thought of Alex. She wondered if he remembered her or if he had found someone else. One day, returning home after a walk, she saw Alex. He was standing outside her house, holding a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite flowers. Her heart froze. "Alex?" she whispered, not believing her eyes. "Alice," he said, stepping closer. "I came to tell you what I should have told you a long time ago. I never stopped loving you." She looked at him, tears running down her cheeks. "I never forgot you either, Alex," she admitted. "But I thought you were gone forever." "I'm back," he said, taking her hands in his. "And I am ready to do everything to make you happy. But the choice is yours." Alice knew this was her chance. She realized that she no longer wanted to live someone else's life. She decided to leave Antoine and start a new life with Alex because their love withstood years of trials and became even stronger. Alice was silent for a long time, looking into Alex's eyes. She knew that her decision would change everything. To get out of this house, to leave Antoine, to break all the threads that held her in the world that her parents had built for her. But in her heart, there was always only one desire: to be happy with the person she loves. "Alex," she finally said, squeezing his hands, "I've never stopped loving you either. I was unhappy all these years because I wasn't living my life. I don't want to hide anymore. I want to be with you." The words she had been afraid to say for so long now sounded confident and determined. Alex took a deep breath as if his soul had finally come alive. "We will overcome everything, Alice. I won't let anyone break us up," he said, holding her close. At that moment, the door of the house opened, and Antoine appeared on the threshold. His look was sad but calm. He saw them together and seemed to understand everything without words. "Alice," he said softly, addressing her, "I know you were never happy with me. And to be honest, I figured it out a long time ago. I don't want to hold you by force. If Alex is what you want, I'll give you your freedom." Alice looked at Antoine, feeling guilty but also grateful for his words. "Thank you, Antoine," she said. "You deserve someone who will love you the way you deserve it." Antoine just nodded and then left, leaving them alone. This gesture forever remained in Alice's heart as an example of true nobility. A few days later, Alice packed her things and left the house. She finally felt relief, as if the burden she had been carrying all these years was gone. She moved into a small apartment that Alex rented in the center of Paris. They began to build a new life together, full of joy and freedom. Alice's father found out about her choice and was angry at first, but Alex decided to talk to him personally. He came to his office full of determination. "I know you don't approve of me," Alex said when he met Alice's father, "but I proved that I can succeed, and I will prove that I can make your daughter happy." Alice's father was silent for a long time, looking at Alex. He saw in him no longer the kind of guy who could be pushed away with money. Before him stood a man who was ready to fight for what was dear to him. "If Alice really wants to be with you, I won't interfere anymore," he said at last. "But remember, I will do everything to make her happy. Don't let her down." "I won't let you down," Alex answered, his voice full of confidence. Time passed. and the lives of Alice and Alex changed for the better. Alex founded his own architectural firm, and Alice began working in the field of art, fulfilling her long-held dreams. Their life was filled with love, support, and understanding. They learned to cherish every moment they spent together and didn't let any obstacles stand in their way. One evening, as they sat on the banks of the Seine, Alex took her hand and said, "I know that we have gone through many trials, but I always believed that we would be together." Alice smiled as she looked at his face. "Me too. And I would go through all this again just to be with you." They hugged while watching the stars shine in the sky. Their love withstood all the storms, and now they knew that nothing and no one could separate them.